Yeah, I had a question. Joyce, could you email out the charge so we could have that to make sure? It might even be good if you could do it even now, because it would be good to refer to that as we're talking. Thank
Okay,
you.
and actually, Jan, I had planned to provide it at the meeting, but then we decided to go virtual. So didn't get a chance to get it on. But if you want to hold for a minute, I'll have it scanned and sent to everyone.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. That'll be very helpful.
There was a document attached to the invitation there, along with the agenda. That may be what you're looking for.
I don't know if I received that.
Okay.
I don't know if others did, but I'm looking at my appointment. I don't have anything on it.
So there
Yeah,
wasn't
I think an agenda was sent out, Will, but I don't believe the charge related to the advisory committee was sent out as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I found it. Maybe it was attached to a different email that I had.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I may be able to share it. I think this is it. Let's see. This is what this is, I think, the charge.
Great, thanks.
Did you find it, Will?
I found it. Is this it?
It looks like it is.
Yeah. So
yes,
I found this attached to an email that came in preparation for this meeting. So it may be that I'm the only one who got it, but it may be there. Some search you might find it.
If you reply all to the meeting minute and attach this, it'll go out to everybody.
Yeah, and Jan, I think Chrissy's sending it over to everyone right now.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, while we're waiting, unless there's questions on the committee charge, do you want to take a few minutes and review this document before we move on?
Well, it might be helpful if people haven't had a chance to look at it, to go through it quickly.
Yeah, well, can you increase your
size
just a little bit? Yeah.
I really stuck myself
right at the bottom, I believe.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Where the plus sign is at. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Will.
Is that big enough?
Yeah, that's big enough. So basically, it states that the board establishes the Scio Township Transit Bus Advisory Committee for bus transit services, membership and term of office. The Scio Township Transit Bus Advisory Committee shall consist of up to 5 members, to include 2 members of the Board of Trustees, 1 member of the Scio Township Planning Commission, 1 member from Western Washtenaw area Value Express, the township manager, and technical support from the Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority and from SEMCOG. Appointment to the committee shall be approved by the majority vote of the board. The committee shall select the chair and a secretary. Resignations from the committee must be forwarded to the township board. Committee members shall serve without compensation, and members may be removed after a hearing by a majority vote of the township board. Just in terms of meetings, the advisory committee shall set its meeting dates and times. The duration of the committee shall commence December of 2023 and end March 31st, 2024. The meeting shall conform with the State of Michigan Open Meetings Act. The committee secretary shall be responsible for keeping formal minutes of all meetings and providing copies to all members. the township clerk, and to others as stated in the charge. At a minimum, each set of minutes must include attendance, approval of past minutes, and all formal motions of the committee. A majority of the members are required at a meeting to conduct business and approve actions and recommendations. In terms of authority, the purpose of the advisory committee is to review, analyze, and research bus transportation needs for Scio Township and to provide recommendations to the township board to facilitate the township board's determination regarding transportation services for township residents. The committee is not an independent entity and shall operate only within the parameters of the charge. The committee acting as a body shall not have the power or authority to bind or otherwise obligate the township in any manner. The committee shall have no authority to obligate or expend funds unless there is approval in advance. Okay. Okay, can you do that? Okay. So in terms of charge,
Recording in progress.
the Township Transit Bus Advisory Committee shall be charged with advising the board based on data, community input, and technical assistance regarding future bus and transit needs for Scio residents. The committee review and analysis shall include the following: a financial analysis and forecasting for the next 5 years, current use of bus and transit services, and status of service delivery, recommendations regarding services that are currently not being provided, and the rationale for the recommendations. Based on service recommendations, provide budget projections and revenue and expenditure projections to provide services, and community feedback and input, and the impact of not providing services in future years. Okay, I think that's it. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Will.
All right, shall I back out of this?
Yes, okay. So that was number 2 on our agenda. Number 3 is actually to have an opportunity to talk about the history and update regarding transit services. And I'm not sure if Ken or Forrest will chime in on that item, but I did send them an email previously and asked that they share information with us.
I'll do that. So
Thank
Will, we're to see if I'm any better at sharing screen now. Okay. Can everybody see a map now and still hear
Yes.
me? Okay.
Yes.
If you have any questions during this, please just pop in because I can't see like a hands raised or anything like that. So let's get started. We'll take a little bit of a trip back in time. This is the year is now 2017. And before what you see on the map, previous to that, all of AAATA's services turned around at the township border. So the farthest we came out is where, if you can see the green line on Route 31, the route used to come out that way and then turn around and went back in on Jackson Road. The Western Washtenaw Area Value Express Wave, they actually made the connection from points further west, Chelsea and Dexter came down to Meyer, and then their route actually extended all the way to the quarter of Jackson and Wagner, and then our buses met them there. In 2017, a proposal was made to levy a millage in the Jackson Road corridor for expanded services out in the township. And it was at that time that actually, I think the service expansion might have taken place in 2017, so all the work led up to that. At that time, Service in the Jackson Road corridor was extended. So it's the purple line. Service was extended all the way out to Meyer, which is where we now meet Wave. So Wave still handles the service to the west, where they did before, but we now meet them out at Meyer. Routes were added down in the Scio Ridge area. So those are the blue line that you see there. There's a clockwise circle and a counterclockwise circle that go out on Liberty, cover all the apartments and the condo complexes down in Scio Ridge, Scio Ridge, and then come back in on Scio Church Road. Route 31 is the little green line near the top of the map. That comes out on Dexter, travels down Wagner, and then turns around at the shelter at the corner of Jackson and Wagner before going back in. So those are the services that are provided out in the township right now. Does anybody have any questions on that part of it? Okay, let's talk ridership
And you
then.
say that was, I just have one question. That was extended to Meyer Road on Jackson. What year?
Or 2017, if my numbers are right.
Thank you.
So ridership. These are ridership numbers for the past several financial years. 2019 is the strongest. You see that after the pandemic hit, ridership has gone down on all of the routes throughout the system. And I forgot to mention earlier that within 3/4 of a mile of all fixed routes, we also offer door-to-door service called A-Ride. That's in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So that's for people that qualify that have mobility impairments and other related things. I believe there's also expanded service on top of that. That also operates in other parts of the township, but for today, right now, we're just going to refer to the fixed routes in the A-Ride service area.
So
you can
question,
go ahead.
Ken, with the A-Ride, was it in place prior to the other services being provided in the township?
So A-Ride moves around. A-Ride is in conjunction with where a fixed route bus goes.
Okay.
And so before that, I am not fully sure, but we can go back and look this up. I'm not sure if Scio had any sort of, we call it demand response, which is it's another word for door-to-door service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they paid for anything separately from that, but the A-Ride itself, that is directly in response to wherever there's a fixed route.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So ridership leading up to the pandemic, you can see that the 2019 are the dark blue bars, the tallest ones in most of the cases. Ridership during the pandemic drastically fell off. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, we actually turned the routes. 26, 29 were revised. The 30 turned around at Jackson and Wagner, and we actually operated a service during the pandemic called Flex Ride. And so it was a door-to-door service. I think, or not for Route 30, but for other areas of the township, it was a door-to-door service that operated in place of some of the fixed route service. And Forrest, if I'm misspeaking this, I think we still operated Route 30, but it was 26 and 29 and 31 did some things differently. So the ridership numbers reflects, the ridership numbers kind of reflect that we altered the service a little bit. And then in 2021, we did restore back to 100% of service hours that existed before the pandemic. What we are finding right now is that since the pandemic, throughout the entire system, so Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, everywhere included, our ridership right now is generally, the system right now is overall is in the 70s as a percentage of recovery from pre-pandemic levels. It's hovering right around 75%, usually goes up above that or a little bit below it. But individual routes can vary anywhere from down in the 60s to actually almost up to 100%, just depending on what the the ridership characteristics are of the audience that takes it. So for Scio Township, most of the recovery at this point is between 60 to 70% of pre-pandemic numbers. And so that's what you're seeing reflected in the graph here. It's the same thing with the A-Ride ridership. That would actually, for me personally, caught me by surprise that that one is also still below pre-pandemic numbers. It's in line. All these routes are pretty much in line with the averages for our entire system, but there's still, we haven't caught back up to where we were before the pandemic.
So as a follow-up question, have you conducted any survey or focus groups or anything to kind of get a sense of what riders are saying? So
we are getting ready to do a market survey analysis in the upcoming year. We did an onboard survey. Let's see, this is 2024. We did an onboard survey, which we do every several years. The pandemic disrupted it because it's actually onboard the buses. But we did do a survey where we talked to our riders on board the buses. And what we found from that one is the people that, we call them transit dependent riders, the people that have to use the service, they never really left. What we're finding right now is that students are coming back from U of M, hospital people are coming back, but a lot of office workers that would use us to come to get in and out of downtown and people like that, their commuting patterns have changed. And we're seeing it like for the office vacancy rates throughout the area are hovering around 30% vacancies right now, even in downtown Ann Arbor. The parking decks, they're actually filling up on the weekends now, but they aren't filling up during the weekdays like they did before, except for the hospital at U of M. So generally right now we're seeing a pattern kind of in the Monday through Friday commuters. But when we do this market segment analysis, that'll give us definitely a better picture of who's left us, because it'll expand outside of what just people that are currently riding the bus.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
Do you have any figures for how many people are connecting from Wave, from further west of the termination of the service, Scio?
That I do not, but we could definitely contact them, ask them for some numbers, and that's something that we have another onboard survey coming up in the next year. That is something that we can put in as one of the questions to study as well. Sorry, I'm going to take a note here. Okay. So now poses. If there's anybody here that's already familiar with this, my apologies. I just want to, for the cost numbers, I just wanted to bring those in there for those that aren't familiar. The way that we break this down is that if poses are charged for fixed route, then the demand response, the A-Ride service on top of that is also included. And then capital costs for replacement of buses and other hard infrastructure amenities and things like that are also included in that too. And so for Scio Township, that comes to just under $500,000 for fiscal year 2024. This also reflects at Forest, again, pop in if I misspeak this. This also reflects the increased costs, or some of the increased costs going forward, as the service will be expanded in August 2024. There will be earlier hours of service for all the routes across the system, or at least the routes in Scio Township. All of them will have earlier service Monday through Saturday. Start again. There will be earlier service and later service. So earlier in the morning, later in the evening, Sunday through Saturday. So all 7 days of the week. The Saturday and Sunday schedules will be drastically extended into the evenings so that they come closer to matching what the Monday through Friday service is. And then Saturday and Sunday service before 6 p.m. Every route that comes into Scio Township and then other routes that are around the system are also going to operate every 30 minutes. Currently, they operate every 60 minutes. So this budget reflects when that service goes into effect in August 2024, this budget does reflect some of those increased costs. And if there are no questions, I guess I sort of bled over into kind of what the future plans are for the corridor that are already in place.
Before you move on, just a question related to the township costs and then the cost to the riders. Do you have any information related to their costs, the riders' costs, the residents?
So fares generally for the system, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this number wrong. Forest, our general fares, it's part of the operating budget. Is that 10% or is it a little less than 10% of the operating costs? And then the other costs that go into making this service operate are funding that we get back from the state. So they provide match and then a very tiny portion for federal. So generally, fares are a pretty small component of this. And so if I had to say, if the fares right now, overall for the system are around 10%, then we would generally estimate that whatever that fixed route service number is on here, that's generally 10% of that is probably what we get for fares. Forrest, I know I'm over generalizing, but
let me clarify a little bit, Joyce. That was a good question. So the numbers on this table are net cost to Scio Township. So we already used the total, expenses, deduct fares, fare revenue, deduct state operating assistance, and deduct some other funding. So this is a net cost. Like Ken said, typically, for a fixed route system, we probably recover around 10% from fare revenue, which is from the riders. The state provide about a 30% operating assistance. And then federal also chipping a little bit, but we don't use federal dollars much for operations, mostly for capital projects. I'm pretty sure we also send you a full year operating cost. Right now, because like Ken said, the new service expansion starts around end of August. So only 1 month-ish service expansion included in this fiscal year. We also have a full year projection for FY 2025. That will give you some better idea because we're talking about going into the future. So how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
So I have a question. So I'm just kind of calculating figures right now in 2023, and I'm presuming that these cost figures line up with what you showed earlier with your ridership figures. So correct me if I'm wrong about that, but in 2023, it cost us, the township, $445,000, $851 to provide service for about 23,000 people. 23,346 people.
so the cost that's shown on the screen will actually be a little less than that because this is for this fiscal year, and I think what you're referring to was last fiscal year. But yes, that I think the what you just said there is generally correct.
And can you explain your A-Ride again? That's your door-to-door service in Scio Township?
So
There's
it doesn't.
1,394 people that are picked up in Scio Township.
Yes, and that for these numbers here, that is specifically that service area is specifically within 3/4 of a mile of the fixed routes, and it's people that qualify. You have to be over a certain age You get 65, 66, somewhere in there, or you have to have a qualifying impairment to mobility.
Okay, for seniors and disabled only. And then that's only you have to be within a quarter mile of Jackson Road.
3/4 of a mile of any route within the township.
Oh, of
So-
any of these 3 fixed routes. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So if you're not within a 3/4 mile, you're not in the service area for A-Ride as a senior or a disabled person.
right.
Okay.
And I have a question because there's the route that goes out to Skyline, which borders Scio. Is the A-Ride 3/4, also 3/4 of a mile from that route, or is it just
Yes.
the route? Okay. So it's any AATA or triple ATA fixed route. Gotcha.
Yes. Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. In addition to what we call A-Ride service, ADA is a federal required service. We have to match fixed route, and we also provide based on township rules. We provide A-Ride service within township. So for those people who qualified to ride A-Ride, they can book trips even within township boundary, and then they don't have to be on a fixed route or within 3/4 miles. But that's following township rules. It's separate from the federal required ADA service. And that
Did I
demand
just hear you
response.
say that the township requires the 3/4?
This is a kind of no. The 3/4 is a federal law,
Okay.
right? Anywhere we provide a fixed route service, we have to provide paratransit. We call A-Ride, but it's a part of the paratransit service. But we also, in addition to that, we also provide service to those people who are qualified for A-Ride. They travel from point A to point B within township. But leave also take them to Ann Arbor or other like a medical facility elsewhere. But I have to confirm that.
So
And when you talk about that additional door-to-door, I think we're still talking door-to-door service.
Yeah.
You're talking about what you contract with Wave to provide.
No,
correct?
we have a contractor. It's MV, but it's not a Wave. It's nothing to do with the Wave.
Okay, so let me be disclosing here. I'm on the board of directors for Wave, and so it's my understanding that we get from the dollars that you get from our millage, Wave gets about $68,000 to provide some service. So we do some backup stuff along Jackson Road to fill in for the time to increase the frequency along Jackson Road from what's that called? Parkland Plaza up to Meyer. And then we also do the door-to-door service. Some of that is about also a requirement of being within the 3/4 mile of the fixed route. And is that, do you, when you cite these numbers, this 445 grand, are you taking into consideration the monies that you give, the 68,000 is included in that 445 grand that's given the Wave?
I'm pretty sure it does. But I can get back to you. I can confirm because this is all we charge Scio Township. So we
Well, it's
receive
gotta be
money.
then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we receive money from us. So that's the total number. Total dollar number. Scio Township is paying for transit service. I don't believe there is a separate contract between Scio and the Wave. I don't think Wave receiving any money from Scio Township separately. I believe you receive funding from us.
No, we receive money from you, but it's part of the town. My understanding is it's part of that township
Yeah,
millage. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I said, that that the township gives you $445,000. Of that $445,000, it's my understanding 68,000 goes to Wave to provide like I said, some backup frequency on the line route from Parkland Plaza to Meyer, and then also some door-to-door service. But okay,
So, Kim, just as a follow-up question, so how does a resident connect with Wave as part of this process? Do they contact you or, I mean, the agency in order to make arrangements for ridership with Wave? Is that how it works?
yes, if it's door-to-door, they call our dispatchers and book a ride. If it's riding, like they run the same route down Jackson Road, so if they're running along Jackson Road, they would stop to pick someone up, take them to Meyer. That's as far as they go with that plug-in. But don't wanna
So
give a lot of-
is Wave similar to A-Ride?
A is the door-to-door service, I presume, is similar to A-Ride, except that we pick up general public as well, but mostly it's
Okay.
seniors and disabled folks that are riding.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I have a question. In an earlier discussion in a separate meeting, I recall hearing from either Forrest or Ken that the money that Scio pays from the millage is focused on the Jackson route, the Route 30, and that those other routes that loop through kind of the southeast and northeast kind of corners of Scio Township aren't really included. There's no sort of charge for those. Is that correct?
Yes, Will, I can confirm that. Like, we include in the postal agreement, we only show Route 30 for fixed route. So Scio Township paying portion of Route 30 on Jackson Road. The rest are like a Scio, Ridge, and then Dexter. We did not charge township for that. I mean, of course, if we allocate that cost, that could be a lot higher than this number.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify that, make sure I remembered that correctly.
So if we go back and look at the numbers, $445,000 is spent on 15,921 residents. And we don't even believe that that's all residents because people use the system to come into Scio Township. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to mark that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, especially Kim. That was very helpful for some clarification and some information that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about moving into the future. I'm going to throw up a general map here. This is from our long range. We call it the Ride 2045. So our long range plan map. The way that we just got done doing a year and a half ago, we just got done redoing our master plan. So we have a plan now extending all the way out until 2045. The way that we're viewing it internally is that we're going to break that plan up into 5-year chunks, for better words, so that each 5 years we're going to go through, try to figure out which pieces are implemented first within the framework of the plan. And then each 5 years go back and kind of review the overall objectives of the plan, make sure that the community is still on board with it, and then figure out what the next services are going to be. And so the millage that was passed in 2022 for the authority partners for the city of Ann Arbor, the city of Ypsilanti, and the city of Ypsilanti Township, they voted and passed an increase in their millage, which will pay for an express service between Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti using the Washtenaw Avenue corridor, the expansions of hours of service that I had mentioned before. So on Monday through Friday, we're going to start a little bit earlier Monday through Friday and then go an hour or two later into the evenings on Mondays through Fridays. On Saturdays and Sundays, I'll start with Saturdays. On Saturdays, service is going to instead of cutting off at around 7 or 8 like it does now, it's going to go till around 10:30 at night. And then on Sundays, it's going to go between 8 and 9 o'clock in the evening. So those are going to be extended quite a bit to try to see the people that are using this on the weekends, how much more attractive we can make that for them. And then, as I mentioned before, on both Saturdays and Sundays, all service that operates currently throughout the system is going to operate every 30 minutes before 6 o'clock p.m. And then any routes that currently operate every 60 minutes after 6 p.m., those are going to, after 6 p.m., they'll still operate every 60 minutes. And so that's something that we're going to kind of monitor to see what the demand is for more frequent service. The reason why we picked those things is they are some of the top priorities that when we went out to the public during this 2045 plan, those were some of the top priorities that the public was asking for. So definitely the later service, a little bit earlier service, and then more frequent service. It also lines up kind of with standard practice or best practices within the industry, that the more frequent services along the route, the less people have to worry about, if I miss a bus, am I going to have to wait for, another 20 minutes versus another 50 minutes. So what we're viewing this millage plan, and so the way that the millage is going to be, the services for this millage are going to be implemented is in April of 2024, so coming up in a few months, the express service is going to be put into place, and then all the remaining services, the expanded services on the weekends and all of that, all the rest of those services are going to be put into place in August of 2024. And so the ones that directly affect Scio Township are the services that'll be going to effect in August. And so when Forrest had mentioned that's the last month of the POSA of this fiscal year's POSA, that last month of the POSA will reflect those costs. And so that also means for A-Ride, and then we'll probably have to look into this for the service on top of A-Ride that the township offers, but the A-Ride service is increased. The hours of service will be expanded directly to match what the current or what the new hours of service will be when the fixed routes are extended. And then going beyond that, and I can't give you exact time frames for any of this yet, but extending a little bit further out, what you see on this map here, and I'm going to zoom in on Scio a little bit more, is that the longer range plans over the next 10 to 15 years or so are going to be in all major corridors across the system, are going to be increasing those routes to 15 minutes or less during peak hours. And then depending on what type of route it is, it also could be at off-peak hours as well. So that the Jackson Road corridor, when we get further out into the plan, the Jackson Road corridor would operate at every 15 minutes or so. The red lines on this map are bus rapid transit lines, and what that means is it's service that's very frequent. It operates with stations, kind of like what's a good way to say this? Like trains on tires, basically. So wherever possible, you put them in dedicated lanes. You use longer vehicles. There will be a station out at the corner of Jackson and Wagner, which will be the farthest west that the bus rapid transit would extend. So then any services that operate west of there, will connect at that station into the very high frequency corridor. But the Jackson Road corridor still is projected to operate every 15 minutes. And so the thought on that is, building on what we talked about before about, the more frequent you run a service, the less people have to worry about it. 15 minutes, right in between 15 minutes and 20-minute service is where the estimations are, where people just don't even have to think about a schedule at that point.
Mm-hmm.
When the bus is running that frequently, they're just like, I'm going to go out there, and then they don't have to worry too much about the trip planning.
Can I ask you a question, Ken?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, I'm seeing the Jackson Road, which is partly red, and then it's blue in the Scio Township. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. And then, so where does that end? Is that ending at Meyer there? Is that Z
Jackson
Road?
and so the blue, yes, that's Meyer.
And you're saying that the Scio Township piece to your new expansion will be, for us, it'll be, expanded hours.
Expanded. So starting in August, yes, expanded hours, more frequency on the weekends so that it'll be operating every 30 minutes, basically before 6 o'clock p.m. every day of the week. Jackson and the other routes that are in Scio Township right now will operate every 30 minutes. And then after 6 o'clock, it'll be every 60 minutes. And that's starting this August. That's going to run out for a decade or more into the future. And then at that point, once we start, because it's going to take additional funding, so we have to work farther out on that. Once we start bumping up the frequencies throughout the system, that'll be the time when the Jackson Road corridor goes up to every 15 minutes.
And when do you expect that to happen?
The plan projects that within the next 10 to 15 years,
Oh,
but
okay.
That's all contingent upon being able to get vehicles, being able to secure funding through, increased millages and stuff like that. So because that's a bigger lift, that stuff just gets pushed out farther in the future so that we can have check-ins with all the communities, kind of like what we're doing with this committee to make sure that they're on board with that type of stuff going out farther into the future.
So how much, this may be an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it. How much, right now, your line service goes out to Meyer. How much more would it cost to take your bus service to Baker Road?
Let's see. I'm going to throw this out there just as a
Sure.
general rule of thumb. I'm calling unfair question on this one.
Okay,
Because
not a problem.
It's not going to be doubling the length of the route. So I'm going to say it's definitely going to fit into less than doubling it.
Okay.
Because that's
a lot of
I-
wiggle room. I hear you.
I know that's kind of the politician style wiggle room answer, but it's the way that we usually, a bus when it's operating, whether or not there are people on it or not, it still is out there because the majority of the cost is the driver, is the labor cost. And so when you put that service out there, it's going to cost what it is, regardless of what the ridership is on it. Because what we said before, the fares only offset maybe 10% of the cost. So even if the ridership goes up, it's not like it's going to completely pay for the route. And
Right.
without knowing the exact distances for how far out that is, that's why I want to give a lot of wiggle room.
Can we get some ridership figures over the last couple of years on the Jackson Road piece? And is it possible for you to give us ridership figures on where most of that ridership is coming from? In other words, as I understand it, we have quite a few people that ride from Scio Farms on the Wave bus to be able to connect with the AATA bus at Meyer and travel wherever they're going to work or whatever. I'm just curious, of these 15,921 people, where are they getting on? Where are they getting off? Who are we actually riding here? So I did wonder if I used to be a bus driver. I drove a bus for AATA for 18 years. So I know you take you collect extensive information on your ridership. And I bet you're even better at it than when I was last working there. So I'm curious about where these folks, who are these getting on? How many are we transporting people out to our community that they come in, they go out, they come in to seek employment, et cetera. Do you have that kind of detail in your figures?
So I'm going to throw a wrench into that really wonderful compliment that you just gave. The passenger counters have not been functioning correctly now for a couple years. So what we have to do, and I'm not saying no to this, it just might take a little bit longer than being able to pull it up easily because technology. So what we have to do, what we've had to do for the last couple of years is, you remember when you click the button on the fare box to log it then? We have to use that fare box data, and we have to use GIS, so geographic information software, to actually manually assign that to stops now. So that's something that we are working on to get updated. It's just going to, we're in process of actually trying to get that get an updated 2023 number, so I can look into where that progress is. I could
Just want to, okay, please
Kim,
finish.
you asked a moment ago about the increased cost for extending service. Is that right? And I looked at my notes because this question came up, I think, in August when Joyce and I were talking with Forrest and Ken, and I think Forrest, you did a quick calculation and said, kind of back of the envelope, about 190,000 to extend service further west from the current termination point at Meyer all the way out to somewhere around Baker Road.
When I think about it right now, because Scio Township is only paying a portion, the Route 30, that portion within township boundary. So whatever expand, from Scio Farm to Meyer, if there's a similar distance and then, compared to Meyer to city boundary, city township boundary, that could be double fixed route cost. If it's only one third or 50%, that'll be proportionally, I would say 50% of the current amount you're paying on fixed route service.
So the rough way of calculating would be to look at the current distance, see how much more we're adding,
Right.
and then sort of figure it out that way.
We can help you to do a little bit more detailed estimate, because buses only run. You cannot just add 20 minutes on the bus route. It's going to be half hour or 1 hour. To some degree, 45 minutes may be working because the bus schedule is every half hour, right? So adding 20 minutes equivalent to adding half hour service because the bus need to stay there for half hour. Anyway, so we can certainly do some estimate based on the distance. So
correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, it's 15 minutes. When the Jackson bus used to turn around at just before Wagner at just beyond the hotel. I'm trying to think of the name of the hotel. Weber's. We used to turn around at Weber's and go back downtown. You allowed 15 minutes for that. 7 minutes out and 7.5 minutes out, 7.5 minutes back in. So I'm just thinking, I may be real wet on this, Forrest, but I'm just thinking if you're riding from Meyer to Baker, you're talking 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to throw that out there for you to think about. It's not a half hour. It's not 20 minutes. I mean, we used to do what? So let's see. Maybe I'm not, my figures are not right because used to do a half hour loop out to Weber's. So that would have been a half hour, not 15 minutes. I apologize about that.
And I think the reason why we're talking about this is we have a major development that's under construction right now. That's 200 and some units, I believe, there. And it would also pick up the, Scio View, which is I think is it 3,000
Nine-
units?
There's like 900 units in Scio Farms.
Oh, 900. Okay. It's 1,000. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of people. That's right. Yeah. So, we have, some density that's happening out there. And then also along Baker, there was another, Heritage, Woods was approved, and, that's a senior living community.
Mhm.
They are going to provide some transportation, but I believe the transportation I think everybody in the community can use it, but it is going to be, from nursing, to independent living. And oh boy, you're going to ask me how many units? Yeah, I don't remember. Do you remember,
I thought-
Karen?
Three, about
thought
300.
Yeah, I thought
3?
Heritage was between 200 and 300, and I thought
Okay. Wow.
Woodview was closer to 400.
Yeah, it could be. I may
I
have.
think that's right, Will.
Mhm. Yeah, we can give you those numbers, but yeah, so that's going to change and yeah, for sure. And the one is, it's a relatively dense development with apartments, etc.
Um,
And the
Yeah.
other thing is we're also looking at the possibility, I hope, of some housing at where the old theater was, but that's already on a route. But if that happens, that would, I think, dramatically increase some ridership.
I think you might be thinking about the Crossroads project at Wagner and Liberty. Right now, as I understand it, your bus only goes out
Oh, I
Liberty.
haven't. Yeah, that's the one that's 200 units. Yeah, and then maybe a 200 unit development at Wagner and Liberty, which would, it'd be great to increase that loop. So that's sort of where, and most of the development that we're trying to focus is on that Jackson Road corridor,
Okay.
if you will.
That's good to know. I would be helpful if we can receive, let's say, a new development map
Yeah.
and identify location of the new development and how many units and the time frame it will come in. So, ideally, as a transit planning, we typically like to have a service even before they move in, and they know, or right after they move in, they know they have an option, so they don't have to, buy two cars or only buy that house because they don't have other option. They need a cars, right? So, but if you have a transit or planned transit service going there, and for those people who don't own cars, and they can move in, so at least give those people an option.
Or
I
people who can't drive.
Okay.
Right, exactly. So going back to, Kim, I appreciate some of the ask for ridership data. I know Ken is back now. Ken said he's going to work on the ridership by stop. But again, we don't have information on where they come from, where they're going. We only know how many people get on at a bus stop, but we don't know where they get off. Right. So, and we don't have that technology. I mean,
Yeah.
if they swipe a fare card, yes, we may be able to track them, but most people pay cash. And we only have limited data for university students and employees, so they use the M card. But certainly we can, like Ken said, we will do onboard survey and may be able to cover some of those questions where they come from, but it's only a small sample.
So you have data on where your A-ride pickups are and drop-offs, right?
Exactly. That's something I
Yeah.
want to mention. Anything related to A-ride, we have all the details. Where to get on, where to get off, because it's door to door, right? We know their travel pattern, but it
We'd
may
like to
not.
see that too.
Yeah, but we don't have for fixed route. We only have which bus stop, how many people get on and off types.
Okay,
And
thank you.
No problem.
so, yeah, I tried to dodge your question there, Kim, by faking an internet outage. So what we do have on hand is ridership by stop from 2019. We had been working, we have a sample. It's not quite as extensive, it isn't as deep as a sample as 2019 when the systems were completely functional. We do have it for 2022. The one that we're working to put together right now is 2023, so we kind of used it as a comparison against the 2022. So we'll get working. I'll check in on that and we'll see where that's at.
Thank
I
you,
have a-
appreciate it.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, when did the bus shelters go in on that the DDA put in? That was recently, right? That would have been 2023.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just last summer.
Yeah. Because the other thing that we're also working on a zoning update for Jackson Road, which will I think will end up in increasing the ability to have more multifamily and residential on Jackson Road. But one of the barriers that's been identified to using the bus on Jackson Road is also the lack of crosswalks. It's difficult. So I don't know if this is SEMCOG or whatever, but if we could identify the stops that are most frequently used,
Mhm.
and maybe that's a way that we can work with the road commission too, as establishing a need for some additional crosswalks. Because it's a mile if you and yeah, people do the dart across. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I can't speak to the transit end. I think we spoke previously. So we've got planning assistance dollars that if you're looking for like a corridor study, or if you're in the planning phase to understand, the safety or like you said, either the mid-block crossings. I don't know if there's sidewalk gaps along Jackson Road, or condition of the sidewalk, or if there's other barriers, curb cuts, all that stuff. That could be an opportunity for us to assist in providing funding to do that study. If you're still in that phase where a study hasn't been done yet and you're looking for, an analysis for.
And that has a March, right? Is that a
Yep.
March submission? Yeah. And
Yeah, because I think, Ken, you brought that up in a previous meeting last year, and we were looking at trying to, obtain some funding for a consultant to work with us on developing a plan.
Perfect. Yes, that would be the funding. And then that leads right into why we are excited about the program and why this could be a good fit, is then it can tie into other funding sources that we have, like the Transportation Alternatives Program, or other funding that can actually put the infrastructure in, get the planning done. And we just received some Safe Streets for All funding to do some pilots across the region. So if there are identified safety challenges or issues that you may need a safety audit at an intersection, or maybe Jackson Road is one that might be an alternative fund. So one would be doing a comprehensive corridor study. Another one could be a more targeted safety audit. So those are two opportunities that may align with the needs of the township. Just want to make sure you're aware of those.
So Ken, is that information on your website right now?
It is. It's not updated yet because we don't have an open call. I'll drop it in the chat, so you have it. It'll be
Okay.
updated probably, like you mentioned, March at the very latest. We'll have an open window, an open call for projects, but probably in February, maybe early March. Yeah, it'll be live. What's up there now is the 2023 program, but it's going to be very similar.
Okay.
There's just no application window yet.
Okay.
And I will drop it in the chat.
I know we're loading Chris up with some things, but Chris might be a good person to to target to help us put that together.
Yeah, I agree, Jan. And actually, he's on our list to work with us on this project and with the road committee.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. So any other questions for Forrest and Ken?
I'm looking for the
Okay.
chat and I don't see it. Where is the chat?
I was
Oh,
looking,
good call. I didn't even look. I just assumed it was there, but I don't have it either, so I will not.
No, it's disabled when they set up the webinars.
I'll send. I got that email from. I think did Christy send it? I think.
Yeah,
if you
Christy
just
sent it.
I'll just
to
reply
Christy.
to all to that if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So, the next item is just to do some brainstorming to get an idea of the type of research we need in order to develop a recommendation for the Board of Trustees. So I wanted to kind of talk about, how we might want to focus our energy, given that we got such a short window to get this project completed.
What's our schedule? Just so we,
So as it stands right now, we have until March 31st to do our research and due diligence, and then at that point, get something on the board agenda. And internally, I know Will and I had talked about maybe trying to meet either weekly or every other week. We could kind of decide to do it maybe an hour and a half for each one of the meetings.
So just to clarify, are we talking about the millage this summer?
Yes, we were talking about, like internally, there's been some discussion about looking at August. And,
Okay.
for some reason, it doesn't work out. We still have the opportunity in November.
Okay.
And certainly I would be open to your comments on that part of things as well.
So that this is driven by trying to get it ready in time to put on the August ballot.
Right. So I just want to bring something to your attention. I understand we're going to talk about service and approach service expansion. We're right now, I have to say, we have a lot of challenges to to keep up with service expansion. I see everywhere else, like hiring is challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about April, like Ken said, the express bus. We should be okay for that one. August is a little bit more challenging to hire like 25 more operators, try to keep up with the expansion. So any service, if we're talking about this year, definitely it is not going to happen. If it's next year, I would say, I'm hopeful. Hopefully by next year we'll get a little better on the labor market, but it's hard to predict. So I just want to making sure you understand. We can develop a plan. We cannot make any commitment where we can deliver in terms of timeline. So we can say we maybe, looking at a 2026, that should be far away enough, but we should be able to manage it. But if we talk about 2025 implementation, it's a little bit, I think, challenging.
mm-hmm.
I completely understand what you're saying, Forrest,
Mm-hmm.
because all of us are competing for drivers.
Right, exactly.
Wave, school bus drivers, AAA, TA. Yeah, totally
For
get it.
us, that also brings up a question that I had from sort of coming at it from a different direction. Some of the development that's going on further out, Jackson is under construction, but it's going to be a while before it's all occupied. I was wondering if we could also look at ways that we could phase in the extension of service so that we build it into the millage, but we only build it into, say, I don't know, some later portion of that time frame of the millage, so that we're in a sense we're gathering money through the millage to launch the expansion of service maybe 3 years into the millage.
Yep. Certainly we can talk about that staging, depending on the development. And I'm pretty sure A-ride service is available within the entire township boundary. So it's for those people who qualified to ride a ride. It's definitely something. And we also have a contract service like a flex ride, and then we tried that before during the pandemic at the beginning, like Ken mentioned. We did not operate 26, 29 in Scio Ridge. We operate a flex ride. It's a contract service. So if it's contract service, there is a more flexibility, right? Because it's private. So as a staging, just something for all of us to think about. It may not warrant a big bus going out there only for a few new development. Maybe that's the final plan, but in the as an intermediate solution, we may use a flex ride to take people to connect to fixed route at a mile, right? So that case, I mean, of course, we may play a role here too, but we can talk about those details. But I'm just threw that out there. I just want to let everybody know we're challenged right now today to hire more drivers, keep up with the new buses and types thing. So we need to keep that in mind.
It's a good point.
So what information, so you mentioned the new development map. What other information data that the township might be able to provide would help in calculating sort of the implications of an the need, the demand for an expansion?
Look at it, Ken. What else do we need? I think the new development numbers definitely help.
Yes.
Anything going into the future, I mean, I know you have approved development plans. If Scio Township has any plans, other plans in the future for next 5-10 years, that also help.
Mhm.
So we have our master plan, but that's sort of kind of a vague target,
Right.
I guess,
Mhm.
on which to base any
There's
kind
no
of planning.
details. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think well, this is another reason, right, to amp up the density along the transit route. Yes. So, yep.
Yes, just so
So-
you know, somebody mentioned earlier, our township border is at Parker Road, not Baker.
Mhm.
It extends to Parker Road.
So, as part of just looking at service delivery and what options are available, is there any benefit in trying to benchmark with other townships, counties, cities to see exactly how we compare and to identify any services that we currently are not offering that potentially could be offered, not necessarily right away, but could be phased in?
Yeah, I think this is where Wave could be pivotal. So right now, in particular, Jackson or Dexter, City of Chelsea, they support through municipal contracts with Wave what they call a connector. And it goes from Meyer, and it covers part of Scio Township in the sense that it goes to Meyer, but it covers, and it's a fixed route service through Dexter through to Scio. So that's another fixed route avenue for the rural part of the western Washtenaw County that we don't provide any. We're not. I mean, our people can ride that fixed route and just pay. I'm just saying the township does not pitch in on that. And then there's more extensive door-to-door going on in the other townships, in which the municipalities and the townships contract with Wave to provide that service. So we do stuff in Freedom Township, we do stuff in Manchester, Stockbridge, et cetera. So Lima, you name it.
So Kim, maybe for our next meeting, could you or someone within that organization just put together a summary for us to discuss what those options are that have taken place in other communities?
Oh, absolutely. And I was
Okay.
just looking at the fiscal year end for 2023 ridership in Scio Township. And this is for door to door, 1,465 rides. And I can get you more information on that, and I can send this little piece, but this was like a fiscal year end.
Okay.
2023, but and as I understand it, that's 68,000 that we get from AATA. I apologize, I'm old school, AATA.
I still do that too.
Too many A's there for me
It is.
for this
Yeah,
old girl to get used to, but that is proportionately funded by that 68,000 that comes off from the millage. It's passed through from AATA.
Okay.
But sometimes rides are covered by Chelsea if you're a senior, if you're disabled and you're riding like from Scio Township to Dexter, downtown Chelsea, they provide additional stuff for seniors and disabled folks. So the funding of every little piece is not so segregated
Okay.
by township or city. But I can get that information to you, and perhaps it'd be a good idea to have our director come and present, or we meet with
I
her.
think that would be really helpful, just to kind of get an idea of what's happening in other communities that we may not be aware of at this point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I dare say most of the ridership for WAVE is door to door. Because people are not on that connector thing, but a lot of the ridership is door to door. And we all know door to door is more expensive, takes up more time. It's less efficient because it's door to door, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we can definitely set that up, Joyce.
Do we
Okay.
want to set a meeting time for a week from now, or how soon should we meet next?
I guess I would defer to the group. I was thinking like Fridays work well for me. I could meet every Friday or every other Friday. What works best for everyone else?
Fridays work well for me.
I could say next Friday, Forrest and I have something during this time. But going forward, I mean, Fridays seem to be good.
I have a conflict next Friday as well, but after that, it's good.
Well, why
Okay.
don't we pull together the information, I think we can get you the information about new developments in Scio Township. And if I don't know what it would take to get together the comparables from other communities. I don't know if that's something anyone has in hand, or if that's something where we would have to call around. What other sources, what other information should we be looking at between now and our next meeting?
So from us, we had said we're going to get that's ridership by stop and then A-Ride ridership. So I would like to ask for the 2 weeks, at least for this first one, just so that we have a
Yeah.
little bit of time to gather stuff.
I think
And
that should work.
I want to be sure, we want information from WAVE about what the comparison for what they provide for us and other communities, or what are just generally what the other what does the transit system look like for other communities?
Yeah, maybe get a sense of, what they're providing in other communities as it stands right now, just in comparison with what we receive, so that we can get a better idea of the universe that's out there.
Do you think WAVE has numbers on how many people they're connecting to the existing AAATA service in Scio
I'm
Township?
pretty sure they do, because they're the connector from the Scio Farms to Meyer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure they have that. And would you like me to have her pull together just an information sheet for you? Or do you want me to invite her to our next meeting?
I think the information sheet would be great, but you could also invite her just to be available to answer questions and just provide some review of that document with us in case
And
there's questions.
Kim, a question that occurs to me is that you'd have to differentiate between riders who are going to Meyer and just going to Meyer and then going back on Wave, and riders who
Yeah.
are connecting from Wave to the AATA bus and then going further east.
Right. And that may be a problem.
Yeah, I don't
In
know.
other words, I
How
think
would they know?
Forrest mentioned this earlier. How would they know where folks are going?
Right.
Right.
But I'll ask, maybe they,
But we would have the numbers of people that just are coming from Meyer.
That's true. If you
Based
subtract the
on
people
AAATA.
coming from Meyer, then you probably would get a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could be just shopping.
Although you'd get all of the people coming back, wouldn't you, Jan? I mean, everyone at some point would have to connect back from Meyer.
Do
I
they
don't know.
use a transfer from your vehicle,
Ooh.
fellas?
Oh.
So if you ride the Dex Jackson bus to Meyer, and you're waiting on that connector hookup to get to Scio Farms, do you get a transfer to get on the Wave bus to go further?
Don't quote me on this, but I think there's a difference in fares, so no.
Okay. So they pay 2 times. Ooh.
I don't want to say that for sure, though. I think that's something that we should probably find out.
Okay.
Well, at some point we should build into this a chance to get input from riders.
Well, actually, Will, I agree. I think we need to look at how we might be able to get feedback. Maybe it's a survey, maybe it's some other form of outreach, but maybe for our next meeting, we should talk about that. We could think about how we want to proceed in that manner. Do we want 1 or 2 people from this group to do the research on that? Or just brainstorm at our next meeting?
Maybe bring some ideas to the next meeting.
Yeah.
We'll do that. One thing that occurs to me is as you were reading through the organizing document for this committee, it did say that we're supposed to be complying with the Open Meetings Act, which means that we should be posting when these meetings are occurring and have an opportunity for public comment. For our next meeting, we should do that. And I mean, I see that we're recording, so we can at least put the recording up,
Right.
so people can view it. But I think, going forward, we probably, if we're going to comply with OMA, we got to post, and we have to have time for comment at the beginning of the meeting, and that would be a way to hear from people who have an interest. It's one mechanism for people who have an interest in the outcome of our deliberations.
No, I agree with you.
So, sorry, I'm going to steer back to something since I opened my mouth. Kim, I've been around apparently too long for this too. There is a transfer agreement now. It looks like they pay a 1.5 fare. So I can ask on our end how that operates, and if you could ask Wave, there is a transfer between the two. You have to pay a little bit more than regular fare, but it's not quite double fare. So why don't you ask Wave if they track how many of those transfers you do, and then I can ask on our end if we track back in the other direction, transferring from us to Wave.
Okay.
And Joyce, I nominate you to be the chair of the committee.
Well, thanks a lot, Will. Well, we do need a secretary too before we wrap up. And actually, Will, on comments from the public, if there are individuals at the meeting, we can open it up for comment pretty quickly if you'd like to do that.
I don't know if we have any observers though at this.
Well,
meeting.
it said 10 people earlier under participants. Yeah, Rob Patterson is here. He just raised his hand. Let's see how you do this.
Oh, so there was a notice for this meeting. I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
yeah,
Okay.
it may be. I think.
Okay.
Okay. So do you know how to bring him on for the
Let's see.
video part of it?
Let me see.
I think you have to promote him to panelist,
Yeah.
Joyce. And you do
Okay.
that if you click on participants,
So he's
and then
over
it should
here.
give you the option.
Okay.
So yeah, I see Rob and I see Pam Boyd. Both are evidently observing. Rob has his hand raised, but I don't know that I can promote.
I don't
him.
see where he has, he may have his hand raised, but I don't see how to get him connected. Let me see if Christy's here and she can help.
I can run.
Yeah. Because I think it has to be the person that's actually
Yeah.
the host of the
The
meeting.
host. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm going to step away for just a moment. I'll be right back.
Okay. I think we're ready to have the public speak.
Okay.
So what are you doing? So I'll know the next step.
Okay, so
We
you
go
just,
up here.
yep, just put your little cursor there, and then it says promote to panelist. But they should be able to.
Recording
Hang around
in
and do that
progress.
real
Yeah.
quick.
No problem.
Well, he's now transferred to. Both of them have now transferred to the panel.
Okay, so who speaks first? You got both of them as
Oh,
panelists.
okay.
Rob
Uh,
has.
Rob has his hand up first.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
go ahead, Rob.
Yes.
Oh, good.
All right. Thank
And
you,
just,
Robin.
for I am in the meeting hall, so.
Okay.
Anyone else want to speak at public comment? Raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
I have a baby in my arms, so I will stay silent.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. So before we break, let me know if someone would like to serve as secretary, because we probably need to coordinate before our next meeting. Okay. And I think that is it on our agenda. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
move.
Okay, so our next meeting is going to be February 2nd. I'm thinking 2:00. Is that still a good time for everyone?
Mhm.
I may have to miss that meeting, but I don't think I'm essential to making progress.
So Will, is Friday, that Friday's not a good time for you?
The Friday the 2nd, I'm going to be. I will have to miss that one.
Okay, all right.
But
Okay.
it seemed like that was working best for most people, rather than next Friday. So, and that gives more time to gather the information and so on. So I'll try and participate leading up to that meeting, but I won't be able to attend.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
So will we be
Yeah.
meeting at the township hall next time or?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to meet in the township boardroom. I think it was the weather that really prompted everyone to do this meeting virtually.
And they can be hybrid meetings, right?
Yes, we can do that too. Yes.
Because that may work out better for Ken and maybe some other folks.
Yeah. The only thing
Kevin.
with the hybrid, Jan, I'll have to look into it. I don't know if that would count towards attendance if you're not there in person, if you're looking at the Open Meetings Act.
Mm.
So I'll need to check on that part of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on voting too. Yeah, it would be good to check that because I know a lot of the
Yeah.
Ann Arbor commissions and so forth are virtual.
Yeah. Let me follow up on that. I think it's a good point.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Stay warm.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
I think Rob had, Rob, did you have a question? Yes. Okay, will do. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
too.
too.
Bye.